Hello, fellow readers. This is Mona Lisa, and welcome to Mona Lisa Reads. I'm so excited for this monthly update because we're going to be talking about Christmas wintery books, and I have never done anything like this where there's like a whole set of books focused on this season, and so I'm so excited about it. But first, I want to go over the books that I did in the month of November. So let's get going. If you watch my monthly update in November, you know that one, it came out halfway through the month. Two, I was doing a nonfiction November. And three, I had a ridiculous list of books I wanted to read despite it being already halfway through the month. So I did have a caveat of a couple of fantasy. I wanted to finish Peace and Turmoil by Elliot Brooks as kind of a palate cleanser in between everything. And I wanted to at least crack open Inheritance by Christopher Paolini. I didn't crack open either one of them. They just sat there looking pretty and teased me of like, haha, you're not touching me. It was disappointing. And what I did finish was, and that's it. That's it. This is the only book I actually finished in 100% entirety. I'm working on finishing more books throughout the month. It's a timing thing. I'm an adult. I have adult responsibilities. Adoption paperwork needs to be updated this month. I'm a wife, house stuff, and trying to fit all that into also reading. I'm working on managing my time better. So I promise next month will be better. As far as this book is concerned, American Sniper by Chris Kyle, it was a very interesting read. It was the first book I've ever read regarding the Iraq War and a veteran from that giving his perspective on it. I will say, if you are not a fan of cursey words, do not read this book because they are throughout the whole thing. Chris starts off discussing his childhood and growing up in Texas and him working on ranches and then becoming a U.S. Navy SEAL and meeting his wife and eventually going over to Iraq for many deployments after the 9/11 attacks here in the U.S. He holds kind of nothing back in this book. He's very blunt about how he felt about the media depicting the war, about upper brass and how they handle things, and the politics involved and the politicians involved. So I could see some people not agreeing with everything that he has to say in the book, but it was a learning thing. You kind of see from his perspective and not a civilian perspective of the war and things that went over there. And he really struggled between feeling like he has a duty to his country and to his brothers in the military, and being a father and a husband. He really struggled between those things. In the end, he does retire. He does leave the military and moves to Texas with his family. Him and a couple of other guys started up a shooting range where they would teach other military, sheriff, police, etc., tactics that they had learned in the field in Iraq to make them more equipped and to be able to better defend themselves. And he also worked with a lot of veterans to help them as they transitioned from military life to civilian life. That can be a very hard transition for some. Plus, during that time, especially, there were a lot of military coming back with PTSD and other things from being involved in the war. So he worked really hard in helping those people. Unfortunately, one of those people he was trying to help did kill him and another gentleman named Littlefield, and it was a very tragic ending to a very phenomenal life. And he leaves a great legacy for his children to be very proud of. So the only thing that really drew me out of the book was him describing the different weapons. I don't know the difference between all of them, so it was hard for me to kind of follow it that at times, but overall I really enjoyed the book. So if you don't mind cursey words and listening to a veteran's viewpoint of the Iraq War in the early 2000s, this is a really good book to pick up and check out. The other book that I really tried hard to finish, but I did not, and according to my Bookly app, I only have 6 hours and like 12 minutes left to finish it, is my Agatha Christie autobiography, Who Has Seen Better Days. The previous owner did that to it. It makes me so sad. So one day I may just get like a newer copy and just kind of keep her in, maybe a rebinder. Let's say that. Maybe one day, depending on how expensive it is. But I'm going to say enjoying this so much. I am doing a read of Agatha Christie, a bunch of her books over the next few years, and I'm super excited about it. So I decided, like I said before, to reread this to see what things in her life I see pop up in her novels. It's been fun. She really has some insights into life and very spot on things. And she lived in a time where things did drastic changes. I mean, there were no automobiles when she was first born, and um, just the way that they did things was so very different. And so it's kind of interesting to see the changes happen over all the years. She did live through World War One and World War Two, and so seeing her life being impacted in that way is also very interesting. She also discusses how she became a writer in the beginning. She had no plans to be a writer, and then seeing how it evolved, and it eventually at one point became a necessity for her to write so that she could survive. She had no income. She had to write to be able to live. And so it's been a journey with her to take that's been fun yet also heartbreaking at times, and I've enjoyed it. I loved remembering how she came up with Perot, and remembering some of the stories of how some of the books that she's written have come about. And I know not everybody's going to read her autobiography, so I am going to do a separate video that discusses some of the things that I found were really poignant in this book, and also discuss things like how Perot came into being and a few of her other books. So um, didn't finish, but I'm gonna finish it this week, beginning of next week, and I'm so happy that I decided to reread this. Now, on to the winter Christmassy books. I have two that I have on hold and requested from my library. One is The Hogfather by Terry Pratchett. I'm a little concerned about this because I've heard it's a lot of fun, yet I've also heard there's like a horror side to it, and so I'm not quite sure what I'm walking into, but I've been highly encouraged to read this and been told I'm going to like it. But my source hasn't always been spot on me liking books, so um, we'll see what that one does. The other book I have is The Green Glass House, and I don't remember the name, so here's the information of the author and whatnot. This book does take place on Christmas, and it involves a boy, and there's burglars that all show up at the house at the same time, which is very unusual. And there's a mystery that ensues, and I believe ghosts are involved, or maybe that's in the next book. I don't know, can't remember. But this is the first book in a series in the Green Glass House series, and I've heard it's a really cute middle grade book, so I'm looking forward to hopefully getting my hands on that. This one is due back at the library on the 8th. Hogfather is due back on November 23rd. I'm not holding my breath that I'm going to get that this month, but you never know. If these books don't get read this year, then I am going to put them as a top priority for next year's reading in December. Now, as far as the books that I have in my grasp, they are up here. And there are no other books on my bookcase because we took all of them off to paint, and it still needs a couple of coats or so. And I didn't want to put all of them on, just take them back off. So I'm showing you the books that I have, and Baron Nightingale is glowing. Um, let's go over the books. The Bear and the Nightingale. This book I first heard about from Merphy, and I'll put her information down below. She, from what I remember, loved the beginning of this book, and the middle kind of drove her nuts, but I believe it ended really well for her, and she continued the series. And I've heard a lot of people talk about this book since then, and I do know it's Russian folklore, and it involves the winter. There's ghosts involved and a little girl, and I remember a few other things, but I don't remember a whole lot about it. So I'm going into it as I like, pretty blind, but I also am going into it knowing there's a lot of people that love this book and this whole Winter Night series. So I'm looking forward to actually finally diving into this book myself. The next book is The Girl Who Salted the Stars by Matilda Woods. This is a middle grade book, and it's a little girl whose dad is a captain, and he's upset that she was a girl and not a boy because girls don't belong on the sea. And she sneaks off onto her dad's boat one time, and father finds out once they're out in the ocean, and he's quite upset. And that's kind of all I know. I know adventure happens. I know there's some magic involved. I'm not quite sure how it gives you wintry feels, but I'm told that it does. And I've heard from several different booktubers that this is a good book. So, another one I'm looking forward to. Then I'm going to, at some point, read The Man Who Invented Christmas by Les Standifield, I believe is how you say it. This book is nonfiction, and it discusses how Charles Dickens came about to write A Christmas Carol. It was published first time in 1843, and according to this book, he self-pubbed it because the publishers wanted nothing to do with it. I've done a little bit of research, and there seems to be conflicting information from what the book is saying from what I've read on like the back and what I found on other sites online. So I'm gonna kind of go through everything and figure out the truth, and then let you know when I do my monthly update. If I'm going to be reading a book about the man who wrote A Christmas Carol, I should read A Christmas Carol. Now, I don't have a physical copy of this, but I do have the option of an audiobook through my library. I have Hoopla and I do have Libby. The thing I'm not sure about is which narrator to go with. I was hoping to find a audiobook that had a cast of characters, but the only one is an abridged children's type feel to it, and I don't want to do that. I do want to do the whole unabridged version. So if you know a good narrator for A Christmas Carol, let me know, because I really would like to have like a narrator who does different voices or just really gives the emotion behind the book. So in the description below, if you have a good narrator for A Christmas Carol, put it there. The next book is Snow and Rose, and this is based off of the fairy tales of Snow White and Red Rose. I've never read any of those, and I typically read the original book of something before I go and start reading adaptations and retellings. This just isn't going to happen this time. I eventually would like to read the original books, but like I said, not going to happen this time. So I know nothing. I've heard booktubers talk about this book, but I don't remember anything about it. I do know the back part does say something about you never know that you're living in a fairy tale, something to that effect. Like you never know that your life is a fairy tale type thing. Anyway, so that's all I know. It's based off Snow White and Red Rose. The last book I thought was the first book in a series, and it's actually the second book in the Dash and Lily series. The first book is like Dash and Lily and the 12 Dares and Day of Dares or something like that. And so I was disappointed to find out that I grabbed the second book. I tried to see if they have a physical copy of it at my library, and they don't, but they do have the audiobook. So my plan is to listen to the audiobook and then read the physical book for the second book in the series. And there is a movie that was done several years ago now on Netflix. I have seen that one, and that involves the Dares. And it was cute. It's YA. If I had seen it when I was a teenager, I probably would have gushed over, a bunch of the cute boys in the movie and stuff. And it's just a fun Christmas winter read or movie. And probably what I'm going to do is listen to the audiobook for the first book and then watch the movie at some point and just see how similar or different they are from each other typically I enjoy a book more than the movie. That's only been different for one movie and book. We'll talk about that later. Um, this is a YA. It's going to be fun. It's going to have the, teenage romance thing happening. And I'm not a huge romance, but I'm good for a cute little romance teenage thing every once in a while. Kind of, you know, you know, realize that my teenagers were not nearly as cool as theirs. So, but I'm looking forward to the book. Is basically what I'm trying to say in a very very poor way. Those are the books and my plan for the month of December. I'm excited. I have high hopes that I will be able to read more than one book in the month, and it's I'm just ready for the season. It's one of my favorite seasons. My husband and I have some really fun traditions that we have with each other as a family, and my parents are moving here, probably won't be here for Christmas. So we'll have our tree up until they move here, and we're going to do Christmas when they get here. So we'll be having Christmas for a very long time in my house. But that's okay because we've done it before. Anyways, I am happy you have spent your time with me. I know you can be doing other things with your time, like decorating your Christmas tree, making those yummy Christmas cookies, um, going for a walk, staring at Christmas lights. So I appreciate you spent a part of your day with me. I really have enjoyed it, and I look forward to the next time we get together. And until next time, go read a good book.